As concussion awareness continues to grow among all levels of football, new products are being developed with protection in mind.
Parents want to let their kids play football, but they're looking for any additional thing that they can do to keep their kids safer.
But what is the message being sent by these companies, and how much protection do they really provide?
I think anyone who tells you that a product can prevent a concussion, you should run away from, because it just can't.
Well, my concerns are that when a manufacturer of a protective device says that it reduces impact forces by a third, that somebody may interpret that as reducing their risk of injury by a third. And there's no literature and no testing that confirms that.
Today, outside the lines, we examine the increasing number of products that claim to offer protection from head injuries.
And now, sitting in for Bob Lee, Steve Weissman.
From Pop Warner football to the NFL, concussions have become a national hot-button issue and an enormous concern for millions of parents and players. Amid those safety concerns, an increasing number of products are now claiming to offer some degree of protection from head injuries. Steve Delson reports on a product called Guardian Caps and the critics who say they are not sold on the company's claims.
You're
hurting, aren't you?
Yeah, I got rolled up on it.
Yeah.
Dr. Carolyn Fari is a certified athletic trainer working with high school athletes in Pocatello, Idaho.
That's a good deal.
She is also a sports science professor at Idaho State, where she founded and directs the Center for Sports Concussion.
Just thread up through there. Thread those through there.
From her dual perspective, Fari says football's concussion crisis is real, and so are the fears of parents.
They are really afraid of concussion. Parents want to let their kids play football, but they're looking for any additional thing that they can do to keep their kids safer. I see these products being marketed specifically with the intent of capitalizing on the concussion epidemic, or the fright that people have about concussion.
At the recent annual meeting of the National Athletic Trainers Association, hundreds of companies displayed their products. Several were directly related to the concussion issue, including Guardian Caps, padded removable helmet covers that are mostly used in practice and sell for about $60.
What we're trying to do is to manage some of that energy that's hitting on the player. We want to manage that force at the point of impact.
Erin Hansen and her husband Lee own a material science and technology company outside Atlanta. Lee invented Guardian Caps. Erin is the CEO.
How popular are Guardian Caps right now?
We are only into our second selling season, 2 years in, and we have about 30,000 players out on the field playing with Guardian Caps. All the way from the very little guys, all the way up to D1 programs like Clemson.
Essentially, what it's doing is it's slowing down the acceleration. So when somebody is hitting helmet to helmet, it's slowing down that acceleration, which reduces the forces.
The product's website does not say it prevents concussions, but does say it reduces impact up to 33%. Boston neurosurgeon Robert Cantu says that percentage claim is too simplistic and may be misleading.
Well, my concerns are that when a manufacturer of a protective device says that it reduces impact forces by a third, that somebody may interpret that as reducing their risk of injury by a third. And there's no literature and no testing that confirms that.
This video shows the Hansens' own extensive laboratory testing. They say they have also funded studies that substantiate their company's claims.
How independent are the studies if the funding is coming from your company?
We would love other people to test our product, and we offer our product up for testing to anyone who wants to test our product. But, you know, that's a real catch-22 to expect someone to step forward and say, you know, I'd love to spend my money testing your product.
You can pressure on the top of your head.
Fari, an outspoken critic of Guardian Caps, says she also questions whether impacts are reduced up to 33%.
I don't know that that's objective research. If it was objective, we would see it go through a system of peer review where the methods are validated.
Fari and Cantu say when players wear Guardian caps, the blows that might have glanced off a helmet's hard shell could stick to the cap's soft padding and increase the impact to the helmet. The Hansons say their tests refute that. Fari and Cantu also say by slightly adding to the helmet's weight, the cap may increase the risk of neck injuries, especially for young players.
Here we go.
What you basically have in our youth is a bobblehead doll effect where you have this big, heavy head sitting on a very weak neck.
And already when we strap a football helmet on those kids, they have a hard time supporting that weight. Now you're going to add additional weight on top of that. You're still changing the dynamic of the way that they can support that head.
We've had a lot of young kids wearing it, and essentially, it's only 7 ounces. There's 7 ounces. It's balanced all the way around the helmet.
I see their little heads hitting the ground, and I see heads hitting knees, and I see heads hitting shoulders, and I think that any impact reduction you can give those kids is a good thing.
Even if you have to add a little bit of weight to do so.
Even if you have to add a little bit of weight.
In recent years, more concussion-related products have entered the marketplace, making it hard for parents to make choices.
How can parents recognize misleading claims?
I think anyone who tells you that a product can prevent a concussion, you should run away from, because it just can't.
Jim Graham here.
But this former sales rep for Guardian caps did talk about preventing concussions. Jim Graham, a youth league football coach in Colorado, posted this video on YouTube. We asked Aaron Hansen to watch his sales pitch.
But as a coach myself, I couldn't look my players or parents in the eye and tell them that I did everything I could do to help prevent concussions in my athletes if I didn't tell them about these Guardian caps.
He used the words to help prevent concussions. What's your reaction to what you just saw?
Extremely concerning. You know, that is not the message we want to convey in any way, shape, or form.
How responsible are you for what your sales reps are saying out in the field or on social media?
You educate your sales reps. You have them sign literature that says that, you know, I'm aware of what the message is and isn't, but you can only control so much.
Erin Hansen said she had never seen this video before, but says her husband Lee had, and he dismissed Graham last year partly because of it.
We hear that a lot. You know,
the Hansens also say they have generally cut back on using sales reps who might distort the message.
Do they feel a difference in the impact during practices?
Yes.
Yeah.
As teams gear up.
As for the media's message about Guardian caps, local news reports sometimes do their own exaggerating.
Its goal is to help prevent concussions during practices.
And at a recent 7-on-7 tournament in Connecticut, where Guardian Caps was a sponsor, this is what one high school coach told Outside the Lines.
What parent wouldn't like it? Hey, this is a concussion preventative. Why wouldn't their child, or why wouldn't they want their child in this product? And when it does something like that and it has that kind of power, I think parents really do like it, just to know that their kid is safe.
I know that a lot of the parents that are purchasing it are under the assumption that this is going to prevent their kids from getting concussed. And I know that those things just aren't true.
The Federal Trade Commission protects consumers from overhyped safety claims. In 2012, the FTC charged a company called BrainPad with making unfounded claims that its mouthguards reduced the risk of concussions.
The FTC also said that it sent warning letters to 18 other sports equipment manufacturers. Were you one of those companies?
Absolutely. We were never fined by the FTC. We took their suggestions to heart, and it was a real awakening for us as a company.
The company's website now repeatedly warns that no helmet or helmet pad can prevent or eliminate the risk of concussion. There's also a disclaimer attached to each Guardian cap telling players, hey man, read this before you use it.
Hands, feet.
Still, Fari says she's so concerned about this fast-growing product, she tried to get it banned in Idaho.
people are looking for quick fixes. I think people are frightened by the concussion epidemic, and they're looking for an easy answer. And this is a product that's being presented to them as that easy answer.
Steve Delson reporting. Last summer, an industry group that establishes standards for athletic equipment said adding a third-party product to a helmet could void the helmet certification. Now, the High School Association in Colorado abruptly banned the use of Guardian caps during games, citing liability concerns. The association also warned that high schools using Guardian caps in practice should consult with their risk managers and attorneys. Joining us now to discuss new football products designed to reduce impact and whether they work are Vernon Fox, who spent 8 seasons in the NFL as a defensive back and is now the head football coach at Faith Lutheran High School in Las Vegas. Also joining us, Dr. Tony Alessi, a neurologist and associate clinical professor of neurology at the University of Connecticut. And Catherine Snedeker, the founder of SportsCap.com, which is designed to help teams build concussion awareness into their programs. Vernon, your team uses the Guardian cap, so what made you choose that product?
Actually, the Guardian cap was introduced to me some time ago, before I even became a coach. And recently, in the past year, we participated in a camp. And one of the teams there were using the Guardian caps. And just out of curiosity, I had some time speaking with that coach just about their use of the product and, you know, what his thoughts were. And he had positive things to say. And less than a year later, once again, I was reintroduced to the product at a coaches convention. And there I had a chance to really just kind of ask a lot of questions and find out more information. And through that meeting, I was able to find out that quite a number of individuals that I knew had a connection with the product. A former player that I played with in college who was a high school coach was also using it with his team in Southern California, as well as a NFL player that I played with was endorsing the product. And so just did my due diligence, asking questions, looking at the research and those things. One thing I could say is that being a former player, one thing I certainly understand is that there is no helmet or any product that will prevent concussions. With the physical nature of football, it's just something that you cannot avoid. And they were very clear with that when I did speak with the Guardian reps, that it reduced impact but could not prevent injury. And there was still a need, which I highly recommend in teaching proper technique and those things that deal with tackling to put a player in the best position to avoid injury at all costs. And after all of the investigation of the product, sat down with the athletic department at Faith Lutheran. They were in support of trying out the product. We purchased them for our entire varsity program through our athletic department and provided them. And I'm the type of person where, you know, the proof is in the pudding for anything. And talking to all of those coaches that have been using the product, they all had positive things to say. And then going back and using that product from 1 year prior, having had maybe 5 to 7 kids that sat out of that camp due to some type of headache or potential concussion, this year having 100% health coming out and not even a guy complaining of a headache, you know, for me it was easy for us to move forward, and a parent stepped up and provided the product for our entire sub-varsity program as well. So we're excited about the product. We love what it's done for us.
So Vernon sees good results there, Doctor. What specific problems do you see with this product, the Guardian cap?
Gosh, Steve, I don't even know where to begin. First of all, when you go to their website and look at that disclaimer, it becomes apparent that why am I even continuing on this website with that many disclaimers? So something must be wrong. I agree certainly with Dr. Cantu, Bob Cantu, as well as the athletic trainer who spoke. But the real problem here is that now we've given players another false sense of confidence. And that's really been the issue in terms of leading with their head, using their head a little bit too much. And it's a false sense. There are too many vectors involved in a head injury, from getting hit from the side, from the front. You know, helmets were really mandated in the early 1900s by President Theodore Roosevelt because people got skull fractures and hemorrhages. Well, we don't have that anymore with the use of modern helmets. So, and I'm curious as to what research Vernon is referring to. One of our problems is that really this type of equipment isn't a coaching decision. It's a medical decision, usually made by athletic trainers. But there is no research, and they say that in the disclaimer, that there is no research available to talk about this, yet there are claims made for 30%. So I'd be curious as to what research there was other than anecdotal stories. And anecdotal stories in science get us in trouble. And I think we're heading for trouble with the Guardian cap.
Vernon, so what would you say to somebody like that who says, you know, if you're playing with something that gives you that sense of security, potentially a false sense of security, that you would play with more reckless abandon?
Well, I mean, I can only speak for our program and the method by which we teach. And, you know, from day one, before we ever put on the Guardian caps to the point to where we did, we've been clear with our players about the proper way of tackling, of not leading with their heads and putting themselves in the best position where they can prevent getting themselves hurt by the technique that they use. And so it doesn't change anything for us in regards to how we're teaching or how we're telling players to conduct themselves on the field because they have a Guardian cap on. And again, we go out of our way and we're deliberate about that, and our players responded well to that. And we didn't see that anyone was actually using the product as, you know, a justification why they could just go run around and lead with their heads or, you know, dangerously play the game.
Catherine, as we saw in the piece, these companies are testing their own products. So how do we know whether to trust them or not?
I think as a parent, you have to make the best decision about your child. You take risks all the time, whether you let a child walk to school or take a bike or drive themselves. There's risks inherent. I think if you're purchasing a piece of safety equipment that has no research behind it, that warnings are on every single page of the website, that it can't promise to deliver what it implies it does, then as a parent, I think if you read the website, it's like we're chasing a unicorn out there. I'd much rather have people spend their $60 on funding athletic trainers, funding education for players, parents, refs, and then having proper concussion management once concussions happen.
Doctor, we talked about this and the time that, you know, right now with helmets, there are no more skull fractures when you play football. But is there any product out there that can literally prevent the brain from moving inside the cranium?
Absolutely not. I do a lot of work with professional bull riders. You know, the #1 injury in bull riding is concussion. Now, granted, we like for them to wear a helmet in case the bull steps on their head or they fall on their head, but it's not going to stop concussion from that back and forth motion. And I want to bring up the point. Vernon brought up a very important point, and that was coaching. You know, he's a good coach. They're talking to their players. We're looking at youth levels. You know, people ask me all the time, what can I do to keep my child safe at the youth level? I'll give you something for free. Go interview the coach. Find out what their background is, what their training is in safety, and what their philosophy is. Are you dealing with a really good coach, or are you dealing with some moron who really thinks that getting hit more makes you tougher and a better player? So I applaud Vernon for actually spending that much time and teaching his players properly. Unfortunately, there are exceptions to that rule.
Vernon, you've had your own experiences playing football and being concussed. How did that affect you choosing this product over another one?
I think we all understand the hot button that's related to this topic just in the world of American football and everything that's going on in the NFL with concussion-related lawsuits. And there are a lot of things that have put a lot of focus on this. And having my own experiences is the first thing that lets me understand that it's unavoidable. I mean, some of the concussions that I've gotten, heck, one of the ones that I experienced in my pro career, to this day, I don't know how it happened. Even when I study film, I don't know what happened in that moment that caused the concussion. And so I recognize that they are unavoidable. And, you know, had a Guardian rep come in and tell me this is your cure and this is the miracle worker that prevents concussions, I would not have listened to him another second. So I understood that, you know, and even talking with our athletic department, our goal is just to make the game safer in whatever way possible. And if it does that for one player, then, to us it's worth it. And, having experienced concussions myself and, still, dealing with, headaches or anything that's related to my experience in the game, it is imperative to me that, not only do we teach the proper things that'll put our players in the safest position, but whatever we can do to enhance that and help them along the way, then we're willing to do so.
Catherine, it's been said that this is actually the best time to play football because there is so much more awareness about concussions. You have children. What goes into the process of you allowing them to play or not, and then when they play, what they're wearing?
I have 3 boys that actually were never football players. They were lacrosse players. Two of my sons have had concussions, but one was school recess, just got hit by a soccer ball. He wasn't even playing. Skateboarding another time, another one in a car accident, another one in a gym class playing basketball. They aren't related to the football fear that's out there. I think that parents have to make decisions all the time on what kind of risks they're willing to have their children do. One of my sons no longer plays contact sports because we sat down with a qualified medical provider who went through his entire history, and he decided he had had too many concussions and will no longer play contact sports. My other son continues to play soccer.
So, Dr. Alessi, you just heard what Catherine had to say about her children's personal experiences. If you're watching this show at home and you don't have a wide breadth of knowledge on this subject, what's the biggest misconception about concussions?
Steve, the biggest misconception right now about concussions is that people feel that once the symptoms are gone, that athlete's ready to get back in there and start playing again. And that's where it's so careful to be evaluated by a healthcare professional and work with a team that has certified athletic trainers, because they're not ready to come right back. And we also know from recent studies by the American Academy of Neurology that teams that have a licensed healthcare professional associated with them, whether it be anybody who has some knowledge of concussions, those athletes do better and get back better and safer. We also know that if you have a second concussion within a 10-day period, the overall implication is much more dramatic and much more long-lasting. So I think that's the biggest problem, is folks think you're ready to go back right away.
Vernon, we've got about 20 seconds here. Your team is using these Guardian caps during practice. Should you use them during games if you're seeing these positive results?
We've come to recognize that the majority of the hits and everything that you're going to take is during the week in practice as opposed to a one-day-a-week game. And so that's the approach that we've taken. And just like Doc said, we have all of the procedures in place as well in regards to impact testing and those things that can make sure that you go through the procedures in order to get back on the field if you do experience a concussion.
All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Vernon Fox, Dr. Tony Alessi, and Catherine Snedeker. Really appreciate you all joining us this morning on Outside the Lines.